If you own a Lexus IS of kind of the late 2000s to early 2010s era with the Mark Levinson sound system, you're going to come across a pretty common problem, and that is the Mark Levinson sub is sitting in the tray at the back, which you can't quite see because the light's not too good in here. That's going to blow on you at some point. In the case of my particular car, it's actually been removed altogether. So I've done a bit of research, and today, for the first time, I'm actually going to put an aftermarket sub in here using the existing wiring and using the existing Mark Levinson amplifier. And so you and I are going to learn a thing or two about this today. So the sub that you get from the factory, the Mark Levinson sub, it's a bit of an oddball. It's not a 2 ohm, it's not a 4 ohm, it's an 8 ohm, which means that if you intend to run a subby off the factory setup, you're going to need to do some tricks. So quite a lot of people, they settle on a Polk subwoofer, and that's what I've done here. A lot of people make the mistake of buying an 8-inch Polk to go into the 8-inch hole on the tray on the back of the car. That's not going to work because it's going to be too deep, and the existing space is very shallow. So you're going to want to get yourself a box to put it in. That's the only way you're going to do it without sort of cutting into the body or anything like that. So I've got myself a little box there ready to go, and I've actually gone ahead and got the 10-inch Polk, but I've gone with the MM1. So the reason I've gone with that, there is a cheaper edition. This is about probably maybe about 70 Australian dollars more than the base model, but the reason we've gone with this is that it's a full decibel more sensitive. And if you're dealing with the factory amplifier that's only going to have limited output, you want the most efficient sub you can get. So on the advice of a couple of guys who know a bit more about car stereos than I do, I've gone with a slightly more efficient Polk. So hopefully that should be slightly louder. So we'll just open it up and we'll just have a look so you can see what these guys look like. I'm told that the other one's going to do fine. Now the reason we go with the Polk, and the reason you've probably seen in a lot of forums that they do go with Polk, is because we've got dual voice coils. So that's dual 4 ohm voice coils. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to bridge these terminals. So there's a set of terminals here and a set of terminals on the other side. We're going to bridge these terminals and we're going to get 8 ohms out of that. So that's going to mean basically that we can quite safely replace the factory sub, run it on the factory amplifier, and run it at 8 ohms, and that's not going to be a problem. So this is our fella here. Quite attractive, I think. So next thing we're going to do is go over to the car and I'll show you where the Mark Levinson amp lives. Now, as I mentioned previously, I'm dealing with an ISF here, but this should be exactly the same on an IS250 or an IS350. It's fairly common across the model range. Basically, you probably got a clue at the introduction. The amp just lives inside there. Now, the way you get this out is there's a little strap there, a little catch. You pop that up. Now, you might be able to get this out with your fingers. Let me try it. If you can't, then you might want to try and get it out with, oh, there you go, I've got it out with my fingers. You could maybe want to try a little flathead screwdriver, but that's fine. Little bolt in there. Now, the size you're going to need for that is, guess what? It's the size that gets used for everything. It's a 10 mil. So you're going to want a 10 mil socket. Pop that on. Okay, and actually this is nice and loose because guess what? I had it off earlier and I just popped it back on so I could show you the video of me taking it off. Okay, so here you go, I'll just pop that out. There we are. Now this thing should just pop straight out, and it does. Now this little bit of plastic here, it's under the spare wheel compartment there, so you just lift that up a little bit and then you can just slide it out easy. And there's the amplifier. And there it is. Now the wiring for it, I'm going to go grab a light so I can actually show it to you. Here's the wiring for it. Now the one that we're going to be messing with is, I believe, if I'm not wrong, I'll have to go back and do a little bit of research, but it's actually this connector in here. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to tap in to the existing sub wire, and then we're going to bring it over to our new subby. Alright, so we've got our sub up on the bench and we've got it cone side down so we can see the magnet and the terminals here. Now the thing about dual voice coils is you'll know that you've got a sub with dual voice coils because you've got terminals on one side and you've got a set of terminals on the other side. So I mean, there are some subs out there that sort of combine them into one and you've got a switch, but you know, by and large, if you're at the sort of lower end of the market, that's sort of what you're dealing with. Voice coil terminals on either side. Now in this case we've got a set of two 4 ohm terminals, so what we're going to do today is we're going to wire these up in series, bridging them in other words, so that we're going to end up with one 8 ohm input. And the way we do that, super simple. We've got our speaker cable, which we've got here. We go to our negative terminal on one side, plug her in, there we go, and we come around to the other side of the speaker where we've got our positive terminal, okay, and we're literally just wiring up negative to positive, like that, okay. So now, basically, we will take these wires out of our sub box, there's our positive and there's our negative, and we're going to wire them to the remaining terminal posts, and that'll be it. We'll have our essentially our 8 ohm sub. There we have it. So now we're just going to lift this up into the box, screw it in, and we're good to go. We've got our 8 ohm sub box. Okay, so here we are back in the boot, or the trunk if you're in America. And here we are looking sort of at the amplifier in its little alcove, I suppose, here. So what we're going to want to do is, you can see there's a bunch of connectors in the back here. Alright, let's get the light up so we can see it. Okay, so there's all our connectors. Now the one we're going to want, and you can see I've sort of already loosened it, is this one towards the front of the car. So we've got this one here, which I think is like a 6-pin connector, and then we've got this one here, which is like a 10-pin connector, and they sit right next to each other like that. So what we want to do is we want to pop this one out. Okay, now the wires that go to the sub, just there we are. Okay, so we've got a green one there and we've got a brown one there, and those are the sub wires. Now they're the ones, if you take them out, they're the ones that are pointing towards the front of the car. Okay, so this is the back of the car, that's the front of the car. So when you take the connector out, these are the 2 wires you want. So I'm going to have to stop the video a second and look at my diagram, and then I'll be able to come back on and tell you which colour's which. Alright, so I have on good authority that a little brown one there at the top is positive, and the green one at the bottom is the negative. Okay, so positive at the top, negative at the bottom. So what I'm going to do, and I'm probably going to have to do this off camera, and I'll just show you what I did afterwards, is I'm going to pop these wires out, probably going to splice into them, and I've got some speaker cable here, which I'm probably going to solder in, splice it up. And if we just go over here, you can see I've got my sub box sitting there, waiting, almost ready to go. Right. I thought I'd jump back on the video to show a little bit of progress, because I thought when I popped this out of the conduit, it was looking a bit thick. I was thinking, oh, okay, and this doesn't feel like this doesn't feel like factory insulating wire, insulating tape. It feels like something I might have bought from Super Cheap Auto. And sure enough, someone's been here before me. Huh. That's what happens when you have second-hand cars, really, isn't it? People get there before you. So obviously, at some point, someone's been splicing something in there. Might have an aftermarket amp or something like that. But anyway, what's good about this is that this person's made our job easier, because now all I got to do is run these two wires here, basically. That's thank you, previous owner. That makes things a lot easier. So I've got to unwrap these essentially, and then I'm going to pipe my my speaker wires in there, and pretty much good to go. Just a little progress shot, because I obviously can't hold the soldering iron and the phone at the same time. You can see here we've just done a little solder splice there. It's holding together quite nicely, got the heat up. And I thought instead of using insulating tape, I'd just grab some heat shrink, because why not? I'll make a nice tidy job of it. So yeah, that's the positive side done. Time to do the negative. There's the negative side done. There we go. Lovely autofocus there, Mr. Phone. There we go. And so all that remains really is to heat shrink it, wrap the rest of it back up in the insulating tape, stick it back in the conduit, make a nice tidy job, and then we'll do a smoke test. And now here we are, all put back together. It's a bit fat around here around the conduit, but I've taped it up. Made sure the join's well inside it, and nice and tidy there. So now we've just got to plug it back in. Right, I don't want to leave this on long enough to get copyrighted, but